so excited to have you on. You're one of my very best friends, and I'm so excited to share you with the whole world.
Yay.
And I know we have these conversations all the time between each other, and I've always kind of wanted to be able to share your expertise with other people because it's kind of one of those things that's a rare expertise. And it's one of the things, it's something that affects everyone in this country because your expertise, one of the things that you have expertise, because I know you are very talented in a lot of different areas, but one of the things that you specialize in is health insurance. And you've been doing it for many years now. And when I hear you talk about it, you're so passionate and you're so experienced. And I just wanted to share that with the world. So I want to ask you a few questions,
Sure.
but before I get started, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, how you got started, what are some of the, what are all the things you're passionate about? What are you doing? Just tell us a little bit about you.
Well, as you know, I'm one of Angela's very close friends, and I love Angela and I trust Angela. And you guys, I'm sure you're watching this video because you understand how powerful Angela is and her skill set, and being able to be on her podcast is a blessing because I do reach out to Angela a lot for just financial advice, and she gives advice from her heart, and she considers your circumstances, and she doesn't matter what background, financial background, or what your goals are. She is very well versed and knowledgeable on exactly what you should do to achieve that goal, and a lot of times surpass it. So I am blessed to even be on here. So yay, Angela. I do call Angela a lot, and the reason why I call Angela a lot is because she is very knowledgeable, but we also discuss a lot of times many people, all walks of life and circumstances around estate planning sometimes, as well as how health insurance can throw a monkey wrench into someone's plan. And it's not just old people, right? Or as many young people would think, oh, I don't have to worry about, health that can be impacted by medical unforeseen circumstances, but it's a necessity, and it's something that I specialize in. So I am a health insurance agent, actually a broker. I am licensed in 29 states. I have hundreds of clients nationally that I service year in and year out to help them with their health insurance needs. I do a little bit of life insurance, dental, vision, and most importantly, which a lot of people do not understand the value of these other products, is supplements such as accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity plans. So that sounds like a lot, but basically in a nutshell, I give people peace of mind when it comes to health insurance and helping them to literally understand how they can properly insure themselves to protect their health, but most importantly, their assets. So that's what I do.
And it's a lot. And I remember when I was first starting my firm, at first I was like, I'm going to review people's health insurance options with them. And you told me, you were like, don't do that, Angela.
Yeah.
Don't talk about that. And since then, I have never talked to a client about health insurance. I always tell them, you need to go speak to an expert about your health insurance. And a lot of times I'll say, one of my best friends does this. If you want to talk to her, I'll be happy to make an introduction. But one of the things that I've learned talking to you over the years is how complex health insurance is. And that is why I don't talk about it, because I don't have expertise in that. And I'm very careful not to give someone bad advice about something I know nothing about. And I think a lot of us tend to do that. Like, we make assumptions about things that common sense says it should work like this. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. And there's a lot of nuances, and there's laws, and there's regulations, and there's just so much detail. And so one of the things you and I talked about before were 10 essential benefits that you should get from your health insurance. So why don't we just dive right in and talk about that? What are those what are the things you should be getting from your health insurance?
So there's different health insurance plans out there. And I think that is the biggest, I would say, people lack knowledge as to what kind of insurance plans are out there. And the top of the line is a plan that's coded an Affordable Care Act plan that meets the 10 essential health benefits. And it's how the plan is actually coded, meaning it's how the insurance plan is written and what in the contract it says is going to help to cover. So to answer your question, the Affordable Care Act, when Obama was in office, he rolled this law out called the Affordable Care Act. And it's not like a special type of insurance is what people would assume they have, but it's literally a plan you could purchase on the federal marketplace, or it's an employer-based plan where an employer has an excess of 20 employees. They are mandated by law to offer a plan that meets the standard, and it's an Affordable Care Act plan, and it meets the standard. So the standards, the 10 essential health benefits are prescription drugs, pediatric services, emergency services, preventative services. So the biggest thing that people have gotten accustomed to is my mammogram is free, my physical is free, my annual pap smear is free. If I am a certain age, I don't even know that age yet, I think it's like 50, or, when the doctor orders a colonoscopy based on preventative services, it's free. The blood work associated with your physical exam is free. That's some of the benefits of having an Affordable Care Act plan, as I would call it, an Obamacare plan, right? People think at their job they don't have Obamacare. Yeah, you do. It's an Affordable Care Act plan that meets that standard. So pediatric services, preventative services, emergency room services, mental health, maternity, hospitalization, ambulatory services, as well as labs, right? So I kind of covered a lot of the things. I'm reading a little bit off of a list because although I know all these things, I want to be as detailed as possible.
Yes.
Something else that just happened too is rehab services. So if people are suffering some substance abuse, some of the plans they offer for for disabilities, certain rehab. So things like that. Those are a lot of the essential benefits. You can always Google them. They're online. It's the 10 health essential benefits that a major medical Affordable Care Act plan provides. And those are the benefits that are included in that type of coverage. So when you're at a job, they don't ask you, if you suffer from diabetes or if you suffer, if you plan on getting pregnant. And that's because you have a plan that's an Affordable Care Act plan. Okay. And to get that, I want to be clear. If somebody wants to get that type of plan, if they are self-employed or their employer doesn't offer health insurance or they're leaving their employer-based plan, you have to get that plan through the federal marketplace, or you have to be specific when you're talking to an insurance company and say, this is the type of plan that I want, an Affordable Care plan that meets the 10 minimum essential standards. Okay, benefits. All right.
If they have the Affordable Care Act, it automatically meets those 10 standards, or do some Affordable Care Act plans not meet those 10?
You can have an ACA compliant plan that has been awarded to be an ACA compliant plan, but it doesn't meet those standards, right? So there are programs out there that, like the faith-based programs, like Christian-based programs that were coded ACA compliant, but they don't cover those benefits, all of them. So you just have to make sure that you have an Affordable Care Act plan that meets those standards. And if you want major medical that's comprehensive, that has everything included in it. Okay.
You covered this already, but essentially if a plan is Obamacare / Affordable Care Act, it basically means that it meets the eligibility requirements of the law that was passed around coverage requirements. And
Correct.
Essentially the way I understand it is that they passed these laws so that all Americans, or as many Americans as possible, would have coverage. People wouldn't be left without any options for coverage because of, for example, a pre-existing condition. So let's talk about what exactly is a pre-existing condition.
I giggle about this because people do call in and they're like, well, my stomach hurts and the doctor, told me that I need to go see a gastroenterologist, or you know, my doctor said that, you know, I possibly have some cysts in my breasts and I need to see, you know, my gynecologist, you know, or have the gynecologist send me a referral for a mammogram. The thing is, and it hasn't been diagnosed yet as to what I have. Just so everybody knows, there's two ways that health insurance, actually multiple ways, but doctors by law are required to notate everything that you say in a doctor's office. And that's because insurance companies, they're there for profit, okay? They're giving you a contract and they're saying, we need to make sure that you are forthcoming with all of your medical history when you go into the doctor. And when you sign certain things at the doctor's office, you're literally giving them an prescription and medical history, and insurance companies can access this information. So whether it's been diagnosed or they have yet to figure out what's wrong with you, it is officially a pre-existing health conditions. They just haven't identified what the condition is yet. Under an Affordable Care Act plan, all of that doesn't matter because pre-existing conditions are covered. It's a part of the benefits that the Affordable Care Act rolled out. Whereas if you purchase a plan outside of the marketplace, or it's not an employer-based plan, you want to make sure in that contract, in that insurance policy, that they are going to cover any pre-existing condition. Because insurance plans, you know, that's the one thing that people will say, oh, I thought that insurance companies couldn't, you know, no longer deny, you know, for my pre-existing to be covered. And that's not the case. It is specific to certain plans that they don't have the power to do that. And the other plans, they can deny a claim and not cover your condition if it's pre-existing. So if you have allergies, you could have seasonal allergies and the doctors know you come in for something for your seasonal, that's a pre-existing condition. You could bump your toe and need to go in to get the little, or your finger to get the little cast removed. That's a pre-existing. Diabetes, heart conditions, obviously pre-existing. People sometimes think, you know, although having a baby is a beautiful thing, to insurance companies, they're about to spend a lot of money, right? So that's a pre-existing condition. So everything is a pre-existing.
Everything. As you're speaking, I'm thinking about my own health history and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm like completely healthy, but I have pre-existing conditions based on what you're saying. Like I remember probably 10 years ago, I don't know, I was feeling like stressed or something. And it's been so long that I don't even remember the details of it. But I basically had to go to a cardiologist and do one of those things where they monitor your heart, like get on the treadmill and all that stuff. So technically, if something happened to me later on down the line, they could be like, you have a pre-existing heart condition because I went and had something wrong. I went and got it checked out, even though the doctor was like, oh, it looks okay and all this other stuff. Technically, it's on my medical record that there was something going on with my heart back in the day, right? Or like I have a lump in my breast, but it's benign. It's not cancerous. If I were to get cancer later on related to that breast, they could argue, right? I'm sure they have lawyers and stuff. They could argue that that was a pre-existing condition, which is scary, which is why that shows why it's so important for us to have these kind of protections. As like me as a normal consumer, I would not know to ask specifically for a certain type of plan. What about this scenario, right? A lot of people are being misplaced from their jobs right now. They're getting new jobs or they're being furloughed or laid off. You know, some people are losing health insurance altogether. And let's say you lose your job and then you're looking for a new job that has health insurance. Like, what are all the things that we need to know? First of all, if you lose your job and you have no other job, number one. And number two, if you lose, let's say you're switching jobs and you go to a new job, do you need to be like evaluating that new health insurance plan, or do you just automatically know, oh, it's a large company, they probably have great insurance? Because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's a big company, I'm sure we have excellent benefits.
First thing is that there are enrollment periods. In fact, if you're self-employed or your employer doesn't offer health insurance, every year there's a time period called open enrollment is approaching. It's November 1st through December 15th in most states. that's when you could shop for an Affordable Care Act plan that meets the standards we just mentioned, which consumers know it as Obamacare, okay? And based on your income, you might qualify a tax credit, which would help to lower the cost of your health insurance. And that's another topic. To answer your question, that is a time frame that regardless, people need to remember every year if they're self-employed or at an employer that doesn't offer health insurance. It's important that they never miss their enrollment period, which is open enrollment November 1st to December 15th. Now, let's just say you ask another question, someone loses their job, or they don't lose their job, but they find a new job and they want to figure out what their options are as far as health insurance is concerned. Various scenarios happen, but what's most important is you're gonna get a special enrollment period. And they call these, what triggers special enrollment periods are life-changing events. And there is a list of life-changing events. You need to Google them, but some of the life-changing events is having a baby, getting married, getting divorced, coming out of prison, adopting a baby, losing employer-based coverage. All of those reasons trigger a special enrollment period. I want to be clear on this. So if you missed your open enrollment because you had insurance through a job or you were insured through your spouse and now you're divorcing, it's going to trigger a special enrollment period. And you have you have a total of 60 days prior to the date of loss of coverage and 60 days after. It is not 2 months, everybody. It's 60 days on a calendar. So if you lose your insurance on the 5th of 1 month, I'm just giving an example, you count 60 days from the 5th. To be able to shop for another Affordable Care Act plan through the marketplace, okay? Those are special enrollment periods. Very important, people should know them. If they are going into a new job that offers health insurance, I always tell people, especially if you're great in your career or whether you're not, it's important to know before you take a new job and you're already at an existing job to see if you can ask for copies of what their health plan is going to look like. Because let's just say you are taking a job that you're getting $10,000 more a year, but then you find out that your plan, after you take the offer and you're starting up this new company, now you have a high deductible and you're managing diabetes, for example. You are spending the $10,000, I'm not saying spending all of it, but you're spending quite a bit of it in the cost of care to manage your diabetes with your health insurance. So it's important to know what the benefits are. And then also it's important to understand, the deductible, the co-payments, the co-insurance, the maximum out of pocket to know if the new plan is worth sacrificing your old job, benefits for. I hope I answered that question.
Yes. It's the same like when I have clients that have stock options at their current employer and they're leaving this employer and going to another one. It's important to compare all the benefits because you might be making a higher salary over here at the new employer, but you may not have the same stock options or the same ancillary benefits. So you have to do the math and figure out what is the total compensation I'm getting when I look at all the benefits in addition to the income. And like you're saying, the health insurance plan is another benefit. And you need to look at what does that plan cover? Like if I want to get braces, my current plan covers braces. Will my new plan cover braces? My current plan covers fertility treatments, right? Does my new plan cover fertility treatments? Like those are important things to consider. And a great point.
One other thing, it's so funny, but people do it all the time. They take the new job and they call outside to find out what they could get. And my insurance at my other job had this. And I'm like, man, that is the biggest mistake people make, is just not doing a tad bit of research. And you don't have to know everything about insurance. I mean, that is not your specialty, but what you need to focus on is, before you take a new job that offers benefits, is specifically, how is this insurance plan going to affect my condition or my plan to have a baby, or like as you said, stock options. Health insurance has nothing to do with that, but you have to be specific as to what you're going to be taking a risk on when you decide to take a new position. And another thing people don't ever consider, I make an extra 10,000, 50, doesn't matter what the number is, but how much more am I going to be paying for myself for insurance? But what's the most important thing is how much more am I going to have to pay for my family? One premium, they don't know that their employer might be paying down not only their premium, but the cost of adding a spouse or dependents. And then you go to another employer where they're not covering a penny of the spouse and dependents premium. And now they're going from making, they're making an extra 10 to 15,000 a year, but now they're paying, $400 or $500 more a month in premium for the family. So that's stuff you have to ask, and you have to try to make an educated decision based on that.
What are some common pitfalls other than the ones we just mentioned, or mistakes when it comes to their health insurance?
Answer that question, but I want to bring up something. So before I answer it, so there are other health insurance plans out there that are not the Affordable Care Act plans, that don't meet minimum essential standards, that aren't that bad, okay? If somebody is retiring and they're 55 years old and they have no mental health issues and they're not planning to get pregnant, they don't need those benefits in their plan, and they could shop for a private insurance plan, and they may not get all of the bells and whistles. They might have to pay a certain amount for their physical exam and their mammogram. But if their income exceeds the threshold to receive government assistance, the cost of major medical health insurance that is compliant and provides all those benefits are too expensive. It doesn't make sense financially. And so there are other plans. It just depends on what state you're in and to understand your individual state law. So for example, in the state of Florida where we reside, if a couple is retiring early and they've got an income of maybe $70,000 a year, we may not do Obamacare because they have no pre-existing, and we want to put them in a private insurance plan. But to kind of now answer your question, when you are looking outside of the marketplace for health insurance, there are short-term medical plans, and there are plans called limited benefit plans, also known as hospital and doctor indemnity plans. I think the biggest thing that people biggest mistake is they go off of price. They start shopping, speaking to an agent or a couple of agents, and they get a price that this sounds like, oh, that's fantastic, I want to go with that. And they don't know exactly what this contract that they're signing is going to do for them. Keep in mind, everybody, insurance is a contract. They're agreeing to pay this if this happens, and they want you to pay this, So I would tell you that mistake people make is going and thinking that the price of something is valuable to them, and so is the policy. It's important that people understand that there are other products out there, but that they need to know what they're paying for. And because it's a contract, you want to understand what it will do if something catastrophic happens to you. I can tell you the biggest mistake people make, and a lot of calls that we get, is somebody purchases a hospital and doctor indemnity plan, and they think they purchase health insurance. And a limited benefit plan is a fixed cash benefit policy that pays out a certain amount for services that are rendered. Here's the big thing. Number one, plans that are sold outside of the marketplace that are not ACA compliant, that don't meet the minimum essential standards, they don't typically cover pre-existing health conditions, okay? Which is fine if you're healthy, right? And it may not, and what an insurance company, the questions in underwriting process, when they look into your medical history to see what they're gonna flag as pre-existing, is, things that happened with you in the past, like 5 to 10 years.
So you'll know at that time what they're considering as pre-existing conditions?
No, you won't know. They don't inform you. But they will let you know if you got a denial from them. Like if they don't want to insure you, they'll say because of medical history. They won't be specific either.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So to go back to what the biggest mistake people make is they start shopping for health insurance and they purchase the wrong thing for them. And I've had people, so back to a fixed indemnity. Fixed indemnities are supplemental, meaning they should be sold with a health insurance plan to fill the gaps. The gaps would be, I would consider my deductible is $5,000 and I'm hospitalized And my supplement, now this indemnity, is going to pay me a fixed cash benefit to help pay down my deductible, okay? But there's been a lot of lately indemnity, companies that only sell fixed indemnities that kind of market themselves as an alternative to health insurance. And when they sell, it's very gray, meaning the person on the other line is not well versed in insurance to understand that they're just buying an indemnity. So an indemnity might pay out $500 per day for a hospital stay. I don't know where in this country one day in a hospital is only be $500, but just imagine you go into the hospital for COVID, because that's the big thing right now. If you're going into the hospital for COVID, I'm sorry, if you sneeze in the hospital, that's $1,000. But just imagine you're there for 3 days and they put you on a respirator or they give you fluids, and now the insurance, with the indemnity insurance, is billed $25,000 for your 3 days of stay. Well, you've just purchased an indemnity with a $0 deductible, which sounds great, but they're only going to pay $500 per day for your hospital stay. You're responsible for the rest of that $25,000 bill. Insurance plans out there that are awesome that you can get other than Obamacare, yes, but you want to make sure that you're buying health insurance. Sure, there's a short-term medical plans out there that you can get for up to 12 months, up to 3 years in the state of Florida. In other states, the terms or the length of the short-term medical depends on state law. But there are other companies that have great insurance plans that don't offer maternity, don't offer these bells and whistles that the major medical plan offers through the marketplace. But if you're healthy and you're of age and you don't need certain things, it's a great viable source. But be careful, make sure that you are understanding what you're purchasing and ask a lot of questions, and even say, listen, I'd like to see some info, can you email it to me? I also, just to lastly say this, it's really important to do exactly what you and I do. If I have issues or concerns or questions about how to manage my money, I call the most responsible, intelligent specialist I know in that field. And that would be, for me, you, Angela. I go to Modern Money. I don't go to my brother. I don't go to my cousin. This is what people do. Hey, do you know what health insurance do you have?
Right.
All these people, I don't be like, what are you paying for your insurance? Oh, you're paying $100? You think I can get this plan? Like, everybody's situation is different. I go to an expert, okay? My car breaks down. I don't go to my dad's house and say, hey, Dad, I don't know why, although I love my dad and he might know a little something, I eventually take it to a mechanic. So I guess the answer to that question is, you really ask questions and you go to a professional.
Yeah. And like, I feel so blessed because I know you, and I always wonder, if someone didn't know you, how would they find someone like you?
A lot of the clients that I get are based on referrals. People like you refer some great people to me, and I get referrals a lot where people say, I have somebody that is great with insurance. And whether someone becomes my client or not, I just want them to understand a little bit more about insurance. If they have a little bit more understanding by the time they get off the call, I feel like I've done them justice. But to answer your question, you can go online and you can start doing research. A lot of my clients I inherit through my brokerage that I'm with, which is a great brokerage. And nationally, we get a lot of calls about people that are interested in purchasing health insurance. But when you go online and you put your information in to request quotes, which is a lot of times how I get a lot of my clients, it's really important that you feel through a lot of the companies that are just selling certain products, right? I'm appointed to sell for a lot of the top major medical health insurance companies like United and Blue Cross and Ambetter. And
so you want to find someone that sells all these different products, not just their companies. Like, that they're just only selling this one product, and they're trying to make that product work for everybody.
I think that is the wisest decision. I also feel like people don't understand that just because they have Aetna at their job, that doesn't mean that Aetna sells individual insurance as well. Because there's employer-based plans, and Blue Cross will have a certain type of plan this employer, but then in a certain area, they may not be available on the marketplace. So it's important for people to understand that they have to look for a certain type of insurance. They need to specify what they're looking for. Be very open with the agent. I have diabetes, I have glaucoma, or I want to find a plan that has maternity coverage in it. I don't want any wait periods. I want to make sure that it's major medical and is compliant. You want to say those things. Or you're saying, I don't need maternity. I don't need, but I want still to have a deductible. Any plan, if you hear, oh, this has a $0 deductible and it's so funny to me when people, the guy told me I have a $0 deductible and I could go anywhere across the country. Well, that might be you have an indemnity, right? It's very important that you know what you're purchasing and to make sure that you think, just don't assume. You want to make sure you understand and you want to get to the right person. I will tell you that I love referrals. I love helping people. But I also know there are other agents out there that are just as passionate as me. And so if you do have an agent, kudos to you, because I have an accountant, I have a tax preparer, I have a financial advisor, and you should have an agent, because I don't want to know all this stuff. I just want to know what I'm specialized in.
Who can I talk to? Okay, I had another topic I wanted to, well, not topic, but travel. Okay, I know you like to travel. I like to travel too. And, I recently had a baby, and when I was pregnant, we were talking about doing like a baby moon, and we were going to go to Mexico and like before the baby came and just chill. And, I had talked to my mom and I talked to you about it beforehand. Mm-hmm. And my mom is a nurse, and she was telling me, like, what if something happens to you? Like, what if you go into early term labor and you end up in the neonatal intensive care in Mexico? Like, then what? And it's like, me and you had a conversation during that time, and you told me my health insurance would not cover if I had to go to the hospital in Mexico. And I subsequently went on the internet and researched, and sure enough, there was this couple from Indiana who that happened to. They were in Mexico, they had the baby, the woman ended up in the hospital, the baby was in the NICU, the hospital wanted them to pay 40 G's cash or else they were not releasing the baby. And it was something I had never, ever thought of, the fact that when I travel overseas, I do not have health insurance coverage.
Traveling is so important to the soul. So I encourage everybody to travel. The great thing is that, and don't be scared to travel. But you're right. So you need to know what your health insurance will cover. And when you first enroll, the health insurance company sends you what we call a summary of benefits, or an explanation of benefits. Some insurance companies will cover an emergency room visit in another country, and some plans will not. And if they do cover the ER visit, they won't cover the hospital stay. Many times you could negotiate getting some help, but for the most part in the contract, it says that they won't cover the hospital stay. They might cover the ER visit. I would tell you this as well. I no longer travel without purchasing traveler's insurance. So I insure myself and my husband. Last time we went out of the country before COVID was Colombia. We went to Cartagena and we went to Medellin. And the moment we landed, I was insured because I purchased traveler's insurance. Don't just go and get traveler's insurance. I mean, it's great to have something, but don't just get traveler's insurance when you buy your flight from Priceline, okay? Because that's not really, it's not a thorough traveler's insurance plan. You do want to speak to an agent, again, that's licensed, and ask them for traveler's insurance, because a lot of times the traveler's insurance they sell to you online is just like an accident policy. It's not really detailed. It might cover a couple $1,000s, but you can get a traveler's insurance that covers up to $5 million, up to $1 million. So you want to purchase traveler's insurance. So there are options that you can get. If you're pregnant, though, it's a pre-existing condition, and traveler's insurance may not cover that condition. So that's probably why I didn't mention that to you.
Yeah.
But if you and Ken and Juliana go to Mexico now, you can purchase traveler's insurance and feel very safe. And they have a global network. You can find doctors, urgent care facilities, hospitals that will take your traveler's insurance plan. And
But you hear about people like cutting their head open in the ocean, or like, I mean, you just hear about like crazy stuff happen. Oh, and I ended up in this like random place getting my head stitched together, and like my foot cut open, and like, oh, I had to be helicoptered to Miami from the islands, or like, you just hear about. I've heard a lot of stories.
Yeah.
And ever since we had that conversation, I've thought about that. Like, wow, imagine how much that would cost if you had to get helicoptered somewhere from like in the Caribbean to Miami, or like, or something.
Yeah, like my good friend, she hit her head and she was in Mexico too at a resort, and they ended up having to go to a hospital that was a little sketchy to do a surgery, and she was scared and her friends were scared and she wasn't insured. And so traveler's insurance is great, and it's super, and I forgot to mention, it's really affordable. So if you're thinking hundreds of dollars, it's not like that at all. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. There is a way to put yourself at ease and at peace, and that is having these conversations and just asking questions like, hey, I'm about to go for 10 days, you know. So
like in the financial planning world, we always talk about insurance as being wealth protection. Because like, if I spend all this time being on a budget and working my butt off to save money and like building a business and becoming wealthy, and then I get in a car accident and someone sues me and takes all my wealth, or I have a medical emergency and all my money is spent in medical expenses, you know, paying those doctor's bills back or whatever. Like when I back in the day, I knew someone who got a lump on his head. His daughter was playing with him and she like, Daddy, what is that on your head? He goes to the doctor. He had a brain tumor, had to have surgery. His medical expenses were over $1 million. His is it like co-insurance, the 20% that he had to pay? Can you talk about, so the 20% that he had to pay, because the insurance covered 80%, the 20% bankrupted him. Can you talk a little bit about like that stuff?
Yeah, so let's talk about insurance for a little bit, and people kind of get confused with the terminology. So we all know what a premium is, I would hope so, but monthly premium is what you pay for your insurance. If you're at an employer, your employer contributes to the cost of your insurance, so you're not paying full price for major medical. In fact, the biggest, I think people are in denial when they don't understand the real cost of insurance, because you're not paying for the real cost if you're at an employer that contributes to the cost of your plan. But your premium is what you pay per month or biweekly or however the employer takes it out. And then when you have a plan, there are different types of health insurance plans, which we don't have enough time to go over the details of all of this, but most plans have a copay structure where you pay a certain amount when you go to see your primary care doctor or your specialist. Copays, again, ladies and gentlemen, is what you pay at the doctor's office. If your plan doesn't have a copay structure, you're paying negotiated rates to see an in-network doctor. Make sure you always stay in network. I mean, people are like, I don't know, my insurance didn't work well. I went to see my doctor. They don't accept it. Well, are they in network? Was this an in-network provider? That's the first thing the insurance is going to ask you. So stay in network. Always look to see what doctors accept your insurance. If you have a PPO, same thing applies. If you stay in network, you get those network negotiated rates. So here's what that means. Doctors, hospitals, facilities sign a contract with that insurance company to be under that network. And when you use that network of providers, you get reduced rates. Okay, so if your plan doesn't have a strict, a set copay structure where you're paying $15 to see your primary, 30, 40, whatever dollars to see your specialist, you're paying a negotiated rate. So I'll give you an example. I have a little bit of a mixture of a type of plan like that. I have a flat copay to see my primary care doctor, but to see a specialist, I pay a negotiated rate because I haven't met my deductible yet. And New patient, went to the dermatologist. My first visit was 80 something dollars, $90. Second visit, as a no longer a new patient, I paid $60. So that was the negotiated rate. Okay. Once your deductible is met, then they pay the co-insurance, which is that percentage. So let's talk about now the deductible. So I covered doctor's visits. Deductibles could range. The national average deductible is $5,000. So this is something else I get all the time. My insurance and my job sucks. I'm like, okay, what's your deductible? What's copay? What's your max out of pocket? My deductible is $2,000 and I have to pay everything until I meet my $2,000 deductible. That is a low deductible.
Right.
You know, if you were buying health insurance outside when your job isn't helping to pay the cost of your insurance, to get a $2,000 deductible, believe you me, you're going to pay a pretty penny to get that type of deductible. So basically what the deductible is, if you ever spend a certain amount that exceeds the $2,000 deductible, for example, that's when the co-insurance starts, and that's when the percentage starts, where now the insurance company is going to cover, for example, 80% of your medical expenses. You're responsible to pay 20% until you hit your maximum out of pocket. The max out of pocket could be, for example, the typical max out of pocket is about $8,000, okay? So for example, someone gets diagnosed with COVID and their deductible is $5,000. They go to see their doctor, they do a televisit, they pay a $25 copay. Oh, I have chest pain, I can hardly breathe, I have a fever, go get tested. They get tested, the symptoms get worse, the fever gets worse, they go into the hospital, okay? They might have a copay for emergency room. Let's just say their copay is $250. They admit them into the hospital, but their deductible is $5,000. They stay for 4 days in the hospital. The deductible, trust me, okay? Once that person hit $5,000, the insurance covered 80%, they had to pay 20%, okay? Until their bills hit $8,000, okay? Once they totally hit, this includes the deductible, once they hit $8,000, now the insurance covers them 100%. They're laying in the hospital, they walk out the hospital, they feel better. Now the bills start rolling in from the hospital, okay? And now they owe the $8,000 and the insurance covered the rest of the bill. Something you should know, people do this all the time. I don't know why I'm paying this, and this is what I went to the doctor. Let's just say I went to the doctor and I got my bill for $90, or came out of the hospital, got my bill for $8,000. You need to really look at your explanation of benefits. So the insurance company will send you something in the mail that says, this is not a bill. You may receive a bill from, Broward General, but this is not a bill. Meaning the insurance company received the claim from the hospital that your bill was truly $100,000 for 4 days in the hospital. They paid down this amount based on what the insurance was supposed to do, and you're left with the $8,000 bill. Now that gives you a lot of perspective. You've got great insurance because your bill is only $8,000, and they covered $92,000 of your care. Okay, if you ever hit your maximum out of pocket, which most people do not unless they have a catastrophic event like cancer, COVID, something like that, if you ever hit it, let's just say this happened in the month of February. Now for the rest of the year, when you go to see your doctor or do certain things, you may not have to pay for anything because you hit your maximum out of pocket. So it's really important to understand, I need to know what I'm going to pay at the doctor. I need to know what would happen if I caught.
But then it resets at the beginning of the year, right?
Every year it resets, every year. Or not necessarily. If you have a certain type of plan, it could go just the term of the plan. If they bought short-term medical that only lasted 6 months and they re-signed an application, it starts over after 6 months. Or if the 12 months started in March, it's going to reset next year in March.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah. No, because when I had Juliana, it was in October, and I remember being so thankful that it all happened in
It
one
is
calendar
before
year.
the end of the year. That's right.
Because it was like January to October, you know? And then I was like, imagine if she would have came in like June or something.
Exactly.
Then I would have had to reset, and oh, that's horrible. Well, anyways, this has been amazing. You have shared so much, and I know you could go on for 10 more hours because there's so much more to talk about. But is there anything else you want to leave us with? Oh,
Absolutely.
okay, go ahead.
I do
And
have
then after that, I want you to share with everyone how people can reach out to you, how they can follow you, you know, how they can contact you basically.
Okay. So I talked about this in the beginning of the call, and that's the thing that most people don't do when they get their insurance is there are supplements that your employer might offer you or an agent might offer you if you're buying insurance outside. Supplements are so vital to go with your health insurance to help cover those unforeseen circumstances. So a supplement could be an accident policy that pays out, for example, up to $5,000 per incident, per injury. For example, my daughter tore her meniscus in her knee, and we had to hit her deductible, and her max out of pocket was hit, and we owed it was about $2,500 for everything after the insurance did their portion. And an accident policy, you would take that claim and you'd file that claim, that bill that you're left with, so the accident policy, and they would send you, you know, the $2,500 or up to help cover that expense. Another supplement is a hospital indemnity. There are certain types. There's ones that pay out $1,000 per day for a hospital stay, $2,000 if it's for intensive care unit, and that's those types of policies that would pay out regardless of what your insurance does. So some of them will pay out $1,000 per day for up to 30 days. Even if you hit your max out of pocket in your health insurance, now you're out of work. You know, let's just say you're in the hospital for 2 weeks, or you had a minor heart attack, but then your doctor said, we need you to not be stressed out. We want to monitor you for the next 3 weeks. Can you stay home? And you don't have sick pay, or you don't have, you know, so that's where a critical illness policy that pays out a lump sum of $10,000, $20,000, that literally $30,000, $40,000 can help offset expenses not even associated with your health insurance and your responsibilities to the providers. So there are supplements out there. I recommend you guys do it. There are holes in every health insurance plan, whether you have major medical that's ACA compliant or you have a short-term medical plan outside, you can fill in those gaps with supplements. And a lot of people, when they are selecting their benefits through their employer, they don't realize how dirt cheap they're getting it offered to them because the employer has got a negotiated contract with these companies, and they're getting these supplements really at an affordable rate. Or whether they're purchasing the supplements outside, they don't understand how much that can protect them. So I have a specific client that I can think of. She has health insurance through her job, but they don't offer supplements, and she just purchases supplements from me. Life insurance, accident, critical illness, hospital that indemnity that helps to cover an ER ride that her insurance company won't cover because she uses, you know, when you not an ER ride, but ambulance ride. If you have an HMO, you have to have a certain company that takes you to the hospital. And what if you're at the mall and whoever you're at this mall visiting a friend, and this company isn't a contracted, you know, ambulance? Now you're responsible for that bill. So don't assume that your plan covers everything, and definitely assume that you can find some things that help to fill in the gap to ease your financial worries so that you're not using your own plan, you know, money for retirement to help cover the out-of-pocket expenses. So in regards to your friend that was diagnosed with cancer, we can purchase, as you're healthy now, you purchase a critical illness that can pay out $30,000, $40,000 if you're diagnosed with a critical illness, okay? And lastly, you asked me about my information.
Wait, before you do that, you're just dropping so many nuggets that it's like more stuff is coming. So I have one more thing I want to ask you, because I watch the news every single night. They're talking about the fact that there's a push to try and eliminate the Affordable Care Act protections? What is going to go to, because obviously, I mean, without getting into politics, my understanding is that the people trying to eliminate it, there's no plan to replace it. Like there's no other Affordable Care Act to put in its place, right? So they're going to get rid of it, and then there will be nothing. So I'm just wondering, as little old me, then what happens?
So, not to talk about politics, but that's so funny because politics is very much in the mix of healthcare. Politics is involved locally, so not just, the presidential election is on the line in regards to healthcare, but there are states that did not expand their Medicaid program, and there are people that are falling through the gaps and are uninsured because they don't qualify to get assistance through the marketplace for Obamacare, and they cannot get Medicaid. And so when you're voting, you need to really understand who you're voting for and how it impacts you, not just as far as taxes and money, but healthcare. I mean, healthcare is a big deal. And so locally, I encourage people to understand who they're voting for, and don't assume, don't listen to the media. Like, read and get the information that helps you to understand what your local politicians are doing. So that's the first thing, because, for example, Medicaid has not expanded in the state of Florida, and there are working class people that cannot get health insurance through the marketplace because they can't afford it, because people assume Obamacare is for the poor. No, Obamacare is for the working class. So, people that are lower income are sometimes even struggling to qualify to get the assistance through the marketplace because the local government has refused to help those people and expand the Medicaid programs. On the flip side, not to, just choose one side, right? A lot of people don't want to pay taxes to support the low income. And so that's why they are wanting to vote for those that are against it. So there's a lot of politics, right? But right now, people call in sometime, they say, I want Trump care. There is no Trump care.
People call in and ask for
Yes, because there's some marketing out there that says there's Trump care. There is no Trump care.
Oh.
In order for Trump to roll out a program, trust me, we will know about it, because, if he's in office the next term, he will take credit for the healthcare program that Congress actually accepts. So right now, Congress has yet to accept any plan that the Trump administration has put in front of them. And a lot of that is because, they are concerned about the American people and making sure that everyone is hurt by anything that is rolled out. And I'm not saying Trump isn't trying to protect everyone. There's got to be a plan that is rolled out that can not hurt the American people. And having pre-existing health conditions is a major sore point. Healthcare. There are millions and millions and millions of people with pre-existing, and that can be impacted by any new health program that is rolled out. Is it perfect? No, it's far from perfect. It actually needs to be perfected. It needs to be fixed. I don't think that there are some major holes in it. But overall, it's protecting those that have pre-existing health conditions, which is why it's important that we as a community, as a people, understand that healthcare, you need the answers, and you need to know who is going to protect you moving forward. The Trump administration can't say how they're going to protect people and can't roll it out in documentation. It's really important for you to understand, do not get hyped up into propaganda. You want to make sure that we hold the Trump administration accountable by seeing what their plan is, okay? Because if you're managing diabetes, if you have fought cancer, but you don't, and hope, catch it again in the future, you can't just blindly vote for a candidate without seeing their plan, because it could really impact your life, and financially it could bankrupt you. So bankruptcy, healthcare, medical expenses are one of the number one reasons why people file for bankruptcy. And I don't care how long you've planned for your retirement, it will eat your retirement. So it's really important that we don't get hyped up into propaganda. We don't just follow completely what the media says, because I, for one, I struggle with watching the media, but it's important that you actually read what the plans are and see how it will impact you. So yeah, healthcare is on the line in a major way in this new election.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. So tell everyone where they can find you.
So again, I know Angela said my name earlier, but my name is Ginger Jonas. You can always contact me on my cell phone, my personal cell phone. Please be respectful. Area code 954-647-6150. You can contact me via email at gjonas, and that's JONAS.iweb, IWEB as in boy, @gmail.com. Again, gjonas.iweb@gmail.com. The brokerage that I work with is called American Insurance Organization. And like I mentioned to you guys earlier, I'm licensed in 29 states. We sell all for many different companies that you're familiar with. Some companies, if you've been with employer coverage for a long time, you've never heard of, but we specialize in helping people under age 65 that are looking for, individual health insurance plans and just insurance to protect them and their families and loved ones. So yay.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Angela, for having me. And I appreciate you and what you're doing. I think this is a cool platform. I think that whether no one calls me for guidance, it doesn't matter as long as they can hear how important it is and why making sure that you're properly insured is critical to your financial success. And not only that, I advise everyone to always plan ahead. So whether you're about to retire, you can talk to your financial advisors about, hey, our retirement looks great. We have $75,000 in a fixed income coming in, but what is my major medical cost going to look like? How's that going to impact me before I retire? I need to know these things. So ask these questions ahead of time. Before you go to new jobs, ask these questions. And, whether you're getting married or having a baby, ask these questions. So it's important to just ask the questions ahead of time and speak to a professional.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.